Hello and welcome back to the Big Money Stylist podcast. I want to talk with an accent today. Is that okay? My daughter is 12 and she's like talks to me in a podcast every day, and it's like a mix between like
in an accent
Australian or yeah. What did I say?
My daughter talks to me in a podcast every day.
No, she talks to me in an accent, and it's like a mix between British and Australian, and I'll be like, darling, can I get a spot of tea? And then she like, it goes off. And then all of a sudden I sound like Western. And I don't know.
Yeehaw.
I'm like, yeehaw and giddy up.
Do you know that yesterday we were sitting at the salon late, and Crystal, the salon manager, she was like, Amanda, did you finish listening to the podcast that came out? And Amanda was like, no, why? And she goes, did you hear that Danielle? What was that word you said last week?
Oh,
dope.
Dope. That's so dope.
We were talking about it in the salon.
Do people not say that anymore?
Everybody does. I've just never heard you say it.
Oh my God. See, like, I feel like it was like an old word, and like old words are coming back with all the 90s stuff. And I found myself saying that. And then I was like, I don't know if that's cool. Can I say that?
I say dope all the time.
Oh, that's funny.
Which I don't know if that helps your case of it being cool or not. I just know it's a thing.
I don't know. It's dope. Let's talk about it.
I feel like it's a California thing. I feel like it's with all the surfers. Everybody says dope.
Like, it's dope.
Dope, rad, gnarly. I hear all those words all the time.
It was just funny coming out of my mouth. I was like, that, what? Huh? Yeah.
I know, but I loved it.
But yeah, so last week, Ani was talking to you guys about funny stories. Email them, like funny salon stories. Like, we don't care what it is. Take it off the cliff. We want to read it
Funny, crazy, any what the fuck, or dude, you got to hear what happened.
Totally.
Email me at Ani, A-N-I, at hairextentionsecret.com, because this makes me excited. Every time I read a new one, I'm like, oh.
Girl, that happened.
Oh, that really happened.
Last week's was like pretty mellow. I'm excited for this week's. Is it spicier?
Oh, this one's a weird one, yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, well, first, let's go into some news.
News.
Can we start with the biggest news of all?
Yeah.
One of the stylists we work with at DKW officially had her baby yesterday.
Oh my God. Oh, do you know? Okay, for those of you listening who don't know, I'm very pregnant. I have about a month left.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't even tell.
It's this weird thing in my stomach. And she sent the photo of her baby, and I am so pregnant and emotional. I literally started tearing up. I was like, oh my God, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Can we discuss it? It's legitimately a cute baby. Sorry, not
oh
it.
Oh my God. She has like these chubby cheeks, and she had like a little beanie on. I was like, oh, it's real.
She's so cute. Do you know, yesterday in the salon, I was like, Amanda, can I ask you a question? Like, honestly, from a not mother to a mother. She's like, yeah. I go, if mothers have ugly babies, do they know? All the moms in the salon go, yes, they do. I was like, oh.
Oh, you know what? My oldest daughter,
okay,
she was really cute when she was a baby, but she went through this phase when she was like 6 months old. Her skin was so pale. Her hair all fell out, and it grew in bright white, sticking straight up. And her rolls had rolls. Like, I kid you not.
And Bailey's so tiny.
She's like, she's so cute now. Like, my little 12-year-old looks like a little model.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell her all the time, we called her Buddha because she would sit and her belly would hold her up. And then her legs, and it was cute, but you were like, is it cute or is it not cute?
Is this gonna be this way? Are you going to be this way forever?
Yeah. Is my baby cute?
Should we be concerned?
But now she's like
stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, so don't worry if you have a less
Buddha
cute baby.
Yeah. I always wondered though. I'm like, and you know what? Here's actually why I wondered, because there's a girl I follow on Instagram, and her baby, I think, is maybe like 1.5 or something like that. And he's cute. He's cute. But he has the biggest noggin I've ever seen, to where it's almost like disproportionate. Yeah. Like, his forehead top area is huge. I'm not ragging on people's babies. Like, maybe I was an ugly baby. I don't know. Because someone's going to be so upset about this. But I'm just saying, I look at him and I'm like, that's not a cute baby. And she's like, my son is the most beautiful human on earth. I'm like,
you know what? Even if like you think, oh, is my baby like going through a phase? You're still like, you are so damn cute. Like, you want to like squeeze him.
You literally made the human.
It's your baby.
It blows my mind when I think like you're literally making a human.
It's weird when I saw that photo of Katie's baby. I was like, oh my God, I have one of those inside of me. Did you see that meme I posted where I'm like, this is how I see myself introducing my baby. Look, I made this. And it's like a wombat holding out a baby.
It's a little otter holding like a baby otter. Yeah. Look, I made this. So that I feel is the biggest
exciting.
news we have.
That made me feel like there's hope at the end of my tunnel. So
your tunnel's like almost here, girl.
It's almost
there's
here.
light. We're so
last
close.
month. I'm dying. But
we're halfway through June, and you have like 1 month left.
I have
literally.
like just over a month. I got it.
You're so close.
I got it.
But next week,
Quarterly.
we have our second Mastermind quarterly event.
It seems like people are more excited about this one. Like the first one was exciting, but this one, like people are pumped.
I think almost everybody's coming.
That's good.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we are doing it's 2 days long. There's, a BMS session, which is business marketing and sales part. And then we have like an NBR portion. And for the first time ever for just our Mastermind students, we're actually doing a hands-on color training.
Yeah.
So hands-on coloring the wefts, and then the next day will be hands-on like coloring mannequins and strategic foil placement and money pieces and smudging and rooting.
I think that's so important though, because, and I always say this, I'm like, it doesn't matter the installation process. Like in a before and after, obviously it matters the installation process, but in a before and after, like the biggest no-no with extensions is like if you have some kind of like yellow blonde, and I see it all the time. Just platinum, one color extension slapped in there. You're like, what the hell? Did you just buy one color of hair at Sally's and throw it in? Like, how is that? What? No wonder extensions have a bad rap.
And what also kills me is whenever I see clients that come into DKW and we're like, sweet baby Jesus, you're like a level 4 or 5, which is guys, that's a
Dark
brunette
brown.
if you don't know. But all of a sudden they have some weird bright blonde pieces. There's a color called like PT60. And all of a sudden I'm like, why do you have PTs in your hair when you're a fucking brunette?
Let's just address that, because Ani and I had this conversation. We're like, in the color wheel, like we're not in the 90s. We're not in like the day of age of Kelly Clarkson. Like you can no longer mix a dark brown and a platinum blonde.
It just
doesn't
doesn't
work.
look good.
No, it does. And especially with extensions, it makes it look more extension-y.
It's like, because it's like cool streaks you have.
Yes.
We even had a client come into DKW and she's like, I just feel like it doesn't blend. And I took out her hair. I completely took it apart. And I was like, I'm sorry, brunette, caramel, icy, literally white blonde.
Like you can mix cool and warm tones, and that's great, but you can't mix like that end of the scale. It's like a 4 and a 10.
Yes.
Like we have to have like sister colors, like a 4 and a 6, or a 6 and an 8. You know what I mean?
Probably even get away with a 4 and a 7.
You could probably do a 4, 6, and an 8, but you cannot do a 4 and a 10.
No. And that every time I see it, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks just a little.
No, and it almost makes the hair look dirty. You know what I mean? When the colors...
Do you know what it reminds me of? Tell me you remember Christina Aguilera back in the day when the Dirty song came out. She's like in a fighting ringer.
Yes, there you go. Black and white.
Yes!
Yeah, there you go.
Given
Dirty.
she also had dreads. The funny thing is, I think the song was called Dirty. So
it was. So
it
don't
works.
have dirty hair. And if you do, come see us at DKW.
But I feel like...
But other news, like that'll be super exciting with that. And then we have BMS Convention. And BMS Convention is not until November, but we did start the pre-training about a month ago. And Ani and I have been getting DMs like crazy. And I don't know. It's so funny because we were going to sell 350. We ended up closing it out at 300 because we wanted to start pre-training. And we were like, it got to the point where we just didn't push marketing anymore. We were like, you know what? We got to close the doors because we got to start training.
Yeah, it was more important for us to have 6 months of full training than to
keep trying to
cram
sell.
another 50 people in. So for everybody who's been DMing us, I get some emails. I'm glad no one has my phone number. No offense, because I don't want texts. But we are not allowing anybody else to join the BMS convention for November. If you go to bigmoneystylist.com, you can actually put your name on the wait list.
Yeah.
And we will be having more classes in 2020.
The wait list is just like put your email in, and then you should get like
You'll get like an email once a week after that, or just like updating you, but that's maybe not even once a week,
yeah, you do, but look for the ones like that say like dates announced for training or classes available or new convention. Like those are ones you're going to want to pay attention to.
Because we'll let you guys know that the general plan that Danielle and I have for 2020 is still doing big conventions that are me and her and then the training team, but also smaller classes. And for our mastermind, we're officially, just for mastermind, we're officially opening up shadowing at DKW Styling Salon.
Yes, we are.
And at the other trainer salons as well. So a lot of really great things are going to be happening next year.
There's like a ton more education options. Like this year, I mean, it was literally in like, hey, let's build our teams up. And I responded to a girl who recently just DM'd me, and I'm like, we've been working. I know it looks like we just kind of like slowed down, but we have a mastermind that we're training behind the scenes. And we also have been working our asses off training a team of MBR artists to go out and educate you guys. It's not like we were like, hey, you want to be an educator? You look cool. Even though these artists had been doing it for like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Now it's like, great. Now you're going to teach it how we teach it so that everything is consistent. We have an MBR manual that I'm going to say like I did 30% and Ani did 60%. But we do have a manual, and it's all put together. It's very pretty, and we gave that to all of our trainers, and like so everybody's consistent. The brand's consistent. Like, you just have to do that. As the brand's grown, you can't have Sally Sue teaching so-and-so, and then it doesn't represent what people are actually getting when they come to convention or anything else.
And then the last thing that Danielle and I ever wanted was it to be like, well, I went to Sally in New York and the class was amazing. But then I went to Joe in Oklahoma and it was fucking
sucked.
Garbage.
Yeah.
That's not a standard that we hold ourselves to as artists, as trainers, as a company. Like we have a very high standard that we set for ourselves.
Right. And there may be like variation in how people color hair. But like when it's a system of hair extensions, it cannot vary. Like it just can't. Nope. So I think that's the difference. Like, you know, if you go take a Paul Mitchell class and they even have specific, like, this is how we do our foils. This is how we do our balayage, you know, and it just has to be a certain way to represent the brand correctly. So we do have tons of exciting stuff coming up next year. Just make sure you guys keep following. I know it seems forever away, especially if you've already been following for a couple years and you're like amped and you missed your opportunity. Just know late 2019, we'll announce everything that's available. I'm considering even opening up a brand new online course. So stay tuned for details. Classes nationwide. Still classes in Laguna with us and convention as well. So,
and let it be known, please, because I know so many people who just heard her say, oh my God, there's going to be online training. No. Don't email us about it. I'm going to sound like such a bitch right now. Don't email us about it. These are plans for 2020. And if you want any information, go to bigmoneystylist.com. Type in your email. You'll be put on the wait list. And as soon as anything is announced, you will know.
And also, too, the online course isn't going to be something that's available 24/7. We'll have certain launches, like during the year. There might only be 3 launches with, like, say, 200 online courses available.
Shit, it might only be 50.
We don't know, 10. But we're just 2.
One person, 2. The first one.
Yeah. We're just saying, like, it's not going to be available all the time. So that's why it's important, again, to make sure you're on the wait list.
Dun, 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 dun. So I feel like we need to have like a news corner. And in the news corner,
all right, let's get on with the show. Let's do this.
So I have another story to read. And when I read this, I was like, this has got to be a fucking joke. But I feel like it goes very side by side with what we want to discuss today. Yes. So here is the story.
I haven't heard this story, so I'm kind of excited.
Oh, you should be. It goes, one time I had a male client who would get perms and then a little vomit emoji because, you know, and it says, anyway, he asked if he could bring his friend one time and me color her hair, or me do her hair while she was processing. Everything was okay. I knew she was a little off, but nothing too off. One day my client came and brought his friend. So I was doing his perm and while he was processing, I was cutting his friend's hair. My perm client has to wear hearing aids. So once he took them out, he was in his own little world and nothing could grab his attention.
Oh, no.
The friend of Jay, the guy, was sitting as I was cutting her hair and she suddenly started screaming. The girl who works beside me started giggling and thought I had cut her ear. Nope. She said she was having a nerve pain. She said it passed, so I started again. Same thing, screams. And that's in all caps. She got up and swore that rinsing her mouth with Listerine would solve the problem.
Wait?
Dead serious. Okay. She came back and it was time to rinse Jay out. As I'm rinsing, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't keep cutting her hair. And when I went back to her, I let her know that I did not feel comfortable finishing and I was sorry, but she would have to reschedule so we could finish properly. You would have thought that this 70-some-year-old woman was 3. Her bottom lip came out. She started crying, the whining. The owner of the salon came, and the client got in her face yelling obscenities. Finally, we decided we needed to call the police. Oh, yeah. By the way, Jay was still at the shampoo bowl as his neutralizer processed, oblivious to it all.
Wow.
Police came, told the client to leave. She's screaming, fuck you and fuck off to the police in the middle of the station. Like, you would have thought a switch was flipped. A couple days later, I woke up to an email that was at least 3 to 4 pages long telling me how crazy I was and that I better not dare try to cry to her friend about anything or I would pay for it.
Oh my gosh.
Alita.
So she was cutting her hair and the lady started like freaking out about a nerve pain.
Supposedly. That Listerine, that gargling Listerine would help.
Weird. Maybe she was having a nerve pain in her mouth.
I don't... Either way, why would you then email the artist and say, you better not talk shit to my friend?
Wouldn't you apologize and be like, sorry, I have a condition? Like, To know that you need Listerine would mean that you know that you have a condition and Listerine would fix it.
And really, is Listerine going to fix
Is this
that?
real? That can't be real.
Yeah, this fun fact, the story I read last week is from the same artist. She's a mastermind. It's Alita.
Man, I'm worried. Where does she live?
Do you remember the brunette that you did on stage with the really, really cute, the short, dark hair on stage?
Yeah.
That's her,
Oh,
Alita.
shit.
Yeah, so I was crying, laughing when I read this, and it's insane because you wouldn't think shit like this happens in a salon. Like, you're just getting a fucking haircut. Chill out, dude.
Yeah.
Screaming. And then to email a letter that
I think it
says...
started off with like, I'm doing a men's perm. It already started off.
Where did it go wrong? Sentence 1. I used to do a perm for a man. Yeah. At least you put the little vomit emoji, so I'm like, you know what? I respect that you know.
Alita, I want to tell you a funny story, and I think I've shared this on a podcast. I used to do pedicures and toe waxing.
And every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, troll feet, no.
Actually, I didn't really do toe waxing.
But you offered it once.
This lady came in. Can I share this story really quick?
Yes, you can, of course.
Oh my God. It was like I lived in Las Vegas. I was in the beginning of my hair career. I started at a salon commission, and we just moved there. And Debbie, the owner, was like, hey, I put a pedicure on your books. I was like, Debbie, I didn't even learn pedicures in school. She's like, you'll be fine. Grab my kit. Well,
oh, no.
I'm like, well, I've had a pedicure, but okay. So I'm doing pedicures, like not very many. But then this one lady came in. She literally had like curly, hairy toe hairs. And I was like dry heaving a little bit, just filing her toenails. And I was like, God, I don't want to keep working on her feet with these hairs. I'm going to get a hairball. And I was like, shit, girl, shave your toes. Like, that's what I'm thinking. She wasn't that old. And I'm like, so then I was like, oh, I know. I'm going to upsell her. And then I was like, hey, today we have a special. We're offering complimentary toe waxing. She was so offended.
Holy
she
shit.
wouldn't even look at me the rest of the appointment and was like, no, I'm not interested. I even went on to be like, are you sure? It only takes a second. So that's my fun story.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was bad.
Did you ever see her again?
No. And after that, I was like, Debbie, don't fucking put pedicures on my books.
I'm
They're
going to offer them
disgusting.
all toe waxes.
I was like, I literally wasn't trained in this. I'm pretty sure you're getting in trouble by the state board. So stop it.
My stomach hurts from laughing.
Yeah, that's a
from
true
men's
story.
perms to Listerine being the
I've come a long way.
a nerve problem solver.
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact that the police were called.
that's bad.
And then she sent a threatening letter. Lunatic. Lunatic.
I've had some clients where I've like questioned like if they were on meds, like there's definitely something off.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where I get so frustrated that I'm like, should I call the police? But I never have. I get to this point where I'm like, this is not worth my time and energy. And I'm just like, I just kind of like diffuse the situation and get them out of there.
I don't feel like I've
But I don't
ever encountered someone that I felt was dangerous, but I will tell you that I feel like now we're telling crazy stories, but I had a client back in Missouri. We'll call her Sally because I don't know if she listens, but this will be interesting. But she, like, not to be a dick, but you want to talk about a shit show of a human being, like, shit show. She was just fucking crazy. And I used to have wine.
Oh, you told this.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
And she mixed it with pills or something. And
She's like, she took 2 Xanax and had like 2-3 glasses of wine.
why would you take a Xanax in the morning? Isn't that a sleeping pill?
She took 2. No, this was like 4 in the afternoon.
Oh,
she took 2
so
that
what is
day.
Xanax for? Like to calm
I think it
you?
chills you out.
Oh,
like when
okay.
people are going to take go on a flight and they're super stressed, they'll take
Okay,
a Xanax.
yeah.
But you cannot mix alcohol with it. Like there's one rule and it's don't do that.
jeez.
Yeah. So
Huh.
today,
Yes.
that brings us to the topic of lunatics inside of the salon.
All right. Don't get triggered. Don't get triggered. Actually, if you're a hairstylist, you're laughing because everybody's got a crazy client story.
Honestly,
Every
if you're in any industry,
yeah, you
yes.
totally have a crazy client story.
They're all insane. Well, and really, it's you always, I feel, toe this very fine line of are you just nitpicky or
Yeah.
are you nervous or like legitimately when I look at you, and it's not how someone looks, it's a demeanor like
Yeah.
you're kind of fucked up.
And you know what, too? We've said this on some of the shows where, like, if you have a ton of crazy clients, I want you to consider you might be the crazy one.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, for me as a business owner, I'm like, every situation, even if I'm like, she is nuts and you can tell she has anxiety, she picks at her hair, she has open, gaping wounds, not from us. Like, I know that's a her problem, not me problem, but I still try to look at the situation like, okay, what can I learn from this down to like how I do the consultation? What am I willing to tolerate? Should I just refund her and tell her to take her services somewhere politely? You know what I mean?
Well, let's actually talk about that for a
Okay.
second, because DKW, actually, we have a very strict, it's a non-refundable deposit.
Yeah.
To even get an appointment at our books, it's a $500 deposit, and it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
that's
If
that,
you
you're committed.
If you cancel, if your grandma passes away or whatever, we're like, cool, you can transfer that to another date and time.
For sure. But if you just don't show up or you try to fully on cancel, then no, like you lose that deposit. That's the rules, and we have contracts signed and everything. So with that being said, how would you, obviously, if a client comes in, let's say they even had old extensions, you
Right.
already took them out, and then you're looking at your hair and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
no.
Because that's the thing. Sometimes you take their extensions out and you're like, fuck.
You're shit.
You're like, your density is really a lot worse than I anticipated.
Or even like, where are these massive chunks that are like
Yeah.
4 inches long coming from?
And then you're like in this weird place because the client is like, I'm not leaving here without hair. But you're like, I don't want to work on your hair. You know what I mean? You're like, legit.
yeah.
Like, I don't feel good about this. And then you have to have like a serious sit down and find out like, how crazy is this client? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is she because I've had some that legit were like, I don't know, like honestly, like I was going somewhere where I like the damage kept getting built up and getting built up. And I really do want my hair to improve. And so then I'm like, hey, well, here's the realistic expectations of what I'm willing to do. And even then you're going to have to give it time. You know what I mean? So it's like coming.
Well, yeah, and I've actually had a client like that. Her name's Amber, and I love her so much. When I started doing her hair, it was fried, broken off, like orangey blonde. She's like, I want to be platinum. And I just go, no.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to have that. It took us 6 months of literally like arguing every appointment,
Yeah.
her being like, blonder, and me going, no, I'm not frying your hair.
Yeah.
She looked me in the face once and said, just fry it off. It's fine. I'm like, I don't think we're speaking the same language, Amber.
Because she's like, you're putting extensions back in. But what we need you to understand is the better integrity your natural hair is in, the more natural the extensions will look.
Yeah, and let it be known, Amber and I, we hit our 1.5-year anniversary very recently, and her hair is now down to her collarbone. And that shit was like cheekbone length in some places.
I
It
did
was
her
so fried.
consultation, and I was like, I can't get you in, but I'm going to put you with Ani. She'll take care of you. Because she had told me, she's like, I don't know, the hair I've had is sucky. My hair's fried. And I was like, your hair needs to recover. I'm like, so you need to go into that with that mindset. And she's like, okay.
Yeah, and see, even though like her and I spent a ton of time going back and forth, now that her hair is super healthy, a few appointments ago, she's like, Ani, I was like, yeah. She goes, all right, thank you. I'm like, I knew you'd get there.
What's so funny is she is pretty blonde now.
She's super blonde.
What happens is, I think what people try to do is if a client says, I want to be blonder, and if maybe you're new at hair or whatever, I don't know the situation, but say you put too much blonde in right away in too many strands, it actually ends up looking yellowy and fried. You're better off to go in and do more foils conservatively and lighten as you go. You'll get a prettier blonde, and over time that client can achieve kind of the look they're going for without being so fried off.
Yeah.
I think we get pissed at clients in the sense that where they're like, I want to be blonder, I want to be blonder, I want to be blonder. And finally we're like, well, fuck you, I'm going to fry your hair. And we don't say that, but we're like, whatever. And we like,
Fine, I'll give you what you want.
I'll give you what you
Fine.
want. And then it backfires because then they're like, why is my hair breaking off? And you're like, because I wasn't a good friend or stylist and I just did what you wanted. So instead, and I've said this on a few podcasts where I love this phrase of, are you a people pleaser or a conflict avoider? Right? And people think, well, especially women, they're like, oh, I'm just a people pleaser. I'm like, I want you to consider you're not actually that nice. You just are avoiding conflict and confrontation with that client or even conversation. So you just give them what they want, but in the long run, it kind of fucks you anyway.
Well, and I'll let you know, even recently at DKW, we just had something like this where a client came in, she had old extensions, the stylist took it out and immediately came to get me and the salon manager. So now it's lead artist, lead trainer, salon manager. Like it was kind of a trifecta of like, no, this is not going to go sideways. And she wanted waist length hair, the 22s, super blonde. And we literally looked at her and we're like, no, we are letting you know 100% you are not going to have that. We are going to, you'll leave looking beautiful, but you will not leave with that. And it was I always call it like the come to Jesus moment. Yeah. And I straight up looked at her and told her, I said, if you cannot agree to this, if you cannot agree that you will not have that length, if you cannot like agree to the understanding, you have to shampoo more often, you're going to have to take care of your hair. You have to stop picking at it.
Right.
We will refund you today and no problem, but we just will not be servicing you here at DKW.
Right.
the look on her face was shock. And I said it really nice because, like, I understand, girl. Like,
It's very, like, matter of fact.
yes,
Yeah.
it's not an emotional, like, I hate you. Like, no, it's just like, hey, and I straight up told her, I go, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I got you, girl, and then fry your hair off or give you ugly colors. We won't do that. So she was, I think the minute I said, like, hey, we'll refund you, not a problem. Like, we're not going to keep your deposit because we're declining you.
Yeah.
She was very taken aback. And she did end up admitting later, no artist had ever told her no.
And
Never.
I think that's something that's in our industry where people think, like, we're in the service industry, so anybody can buy our time. I would challenge you as a hairstylist. Like, there are certain people that cannot buy my time. And it doesn't mean I'm a bitch about it or rude, but it's very, like how Ani said, like, very matter of fact, like, hey, as a professional, here's what I'm willing to offer you. Here's what I'm willing to do. If you cannot accept that, then this is not a good fit. And it is what it is.
It's just that simple. So let's say, because obviously a lot of our mastermind and like BMS and MBR artists listen to this, and 90% of them, I would say, have applications.
I
Like,
think people get sweaty and they get to this point where they're like, oh, I got a lead, you know? And it's not like a $200 hair color. It's like a $2,000 to...
it's $2,000
It's
service.
like a $2,000 service. And so they're like, oh, I'm so pumped. And they end up taking people that they're like, ooh, I kind of knew she was crazy, but I took her anyway. And then I was afraid to tell her no or have that conversation or even offer her refund of her deposit back because, like, I was so excited that I had a client and she was there and she showed up and she cleared her schedule and I cleared my schedule. I'm telling you from personal experience, that will bite you in the ass.
Yes. And really think about it this way. Like, because I know we're like, once we hit that sweaty point, we're like, I'm just going to do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Where are you going to be more sweaty? Telling her no, maybe having her be upset, maybe not, whatever. You're not keeping her money. Like, there's no backlash that can really come from this. What's the worst she could do? Go and do a review that says she wouldn't do this to my hair because she said I wasn't a good candidate.
Yeah. I have one situation where I had a girl come in. She had like 4 inches of like super dark roots and then like platinum ends. And she was like, I kind of want to go your color. And I'm like a blonde. I'm like a medium brown blonde. And I was like, I think that's a great option for you because you literally have like black roots and blonde ends. So let's take you somewhere in the middle. So I started how I would any kind of process. She literally seemed super easygoing when she sat in the chair. She's like, whatever you think. I've seen your work, whatever you think. And I'm like, sweet. And I failed in the sense that like I didn't have a long enough consultation. I was pretty busy. I was just like, cool. So I start putting lightener on the top half, you know, breaking it up with baby lights. And she's like, is this bleach? And I was like, well, yeah, I have to lighten it to like get the ends and the top to match and then deposit in the ends. And right then I could kind of tell she was nervous. And I was like, you're fine. So
You're fine.
You're fine. So I'm like, I lighten it up, I deposit, I get it to like a pretty decent color. Keep in mind, she only has like 4 inches of hair. Like it's pretty broken off. I rinse her. She's like, I don't like this color at all. I'm like, well, okay, but you need to understand, like once we get another 6 inches of length in, it's going to look a lot different. I promise. She's like, no. Oh my God. She's like, literally like walls were caving in. She starts like melting down. I was like, oh my God. Like you had like this was a color correction. So then that's when I realized I was like, fuck, I did not do a long enough consultation with her.
Oh.
I just was like, oh yeah, I know how to fix this. You're good. And she was like, yeah, whatever you think. So I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, well, let me go over option A and option B. Option A is go darker. Option B is go darker. She's like, but you ruined my natural color that I had all grown out. I was like, I had to even you out. I'm like, I could have colored your ends like the color of the top, but even then, like your top's kind of ashy. I still would have had to put some kind of color on the top to get it to match. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm sorry you didn't know that. So here's where we're at. We can take you brown. So anyways.
We can take you brown.
I ended up talking her into going brown, but I know she didn't want to go brown, but I was like, that's your only option. Or we can put the extensions in and you can see how this fades out. So we take her brown. I can tell she still is like, it's so dark. And I was like, I know. And then I finally got to this point. I mean, I was like a good 5 hours in and I said, I think we should reschedule. And I was like, actually, I think I did this before I put the brown on. I was like, I think we should reschedule. I was like, you're too like emotionally heated. That's okay. I'm like, she's like, well, I'm not going home with my hair looking like this. And I'm thinking like, you had 4 inches of black roots and then platinum ends.
Are you kidding me?
This is an improvement. And so I was just like, okay. So I was stuck in such a hard space because I'm recommending that she could go cool down and think about it and like come back. And like, I was like, I don't have room on my books, but I will make time for you in like 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. She's like, no, let's just go dark then. So then we go dark. Then we put the extensions in. I literally get like the scariest email at like 2 a.m.
Sweet baby.
And I was like, fuck that. I don't email people back when they send me an emotional email at 2 a.m. So I called her. I said, how are you? And I just let her like word vomit, like literally tell me everything. And then I said, I get that, but I need you to understand where I was coming from. And I kind of played out the situation. I'm like, I'm so sorry you had a bad experience. I'm like, if you want, I am happy to just refund you for everything except for the hair. I'm like, because you knew going into it, you told me you didn't want to reschedule. And I was like, so I know I don't typically offer refunds and you signed a contract, but how about I just refund you for everything but the hair? And she was like, okay. And it ended up fine, but it was like the scariest, like that was intense.
That damn. And see, I feel like at least luckily, like the girl that we recently had that we were like, we need to have a talk.
Yeah.
It literally could not have been laid out more crystal clear. Like there was, especially, you know me, like I'm pretty just, like you said, just matter of fact. Like I was not mean or rude to her, but to me, I'm like, hey, like this is it's not gonna work.
And my only concern with that, like as a salon owners, is like some people you can literally say like, this is what we're going to do. And they seem fine in the moment and they're like, yeah, totally. And then they're called salon hoppers. Where they're like, well, that person didn't give me what I wanted, so I'm going to go to this person. And they end up just with like fucking shitty ass hair. And it's because they're salon hoppers and they won't listen to like the recommendations.
But do you know, for me, one red flag for me is when they say, I've been to so many salons and no one can ever get it right.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, hold up. Like that to me is such a big red flag. So how would you, because we're coming close to the end, so how would you recommend, even like, let's say through consultation, because we do all our consultations by phone. That's when we take deposits. Like, how would you go about, kind of denying someone without being like, it turns out I don't want to do your hair.
Yeah, it's such a fine line because I've even had times where I booked somebody and I was like, God, they asked so many questions. They seem so nervous.
I remember who this is.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't feel like I don't have to sell you on this. Like it's a good service. I believe in it. If you like it, great. And then it was so funny because she was like texting the phone like almost every day asking questions. And I can be like a very like nervous personality to where like I want to know all the details. So I can I have a lot of patience with people. But this was just like weird. Like she would text at weird times in the night, and because we have a salon phone only for salon guests, and it was just it got weird to where I was like, let's refund her. Like the questions she's asking are weird, and the timing that she's sending them is weirder.
So none of this is normal.
I just like encourage everybody out there, if there's so many red flags, and even I want you to understand too, this client, that particular client may go to somebody else and totally hit it off. But if you're already hitting that like a ton of like resistance and weirdness, that client may not be right for you, and that's okay.
And sometimes it's just better to refund it and be like, nope.
Yeah. Don't get so hungry for a lead and so excited, because in the long term, it actually ends up like costing you more time and stress. The stress
Definitely
alone,
stress.
Like in the beginning of my career, I can't tell you how many people I was just like so stressed out about because I thought I had to service everybody, including toe waxing.
And not including the toe waxer. But not only that, even if the client is sitting in your chair, you can still deny them. Like, honestly, you can. Just like people say, like, I wanted to cancel my wedding, but it was too late. They're like, you can be walking down the aisle and cancel your wedding. It's never too late. Like
the only thing I put out there when we have these kind of conversations on the podcast is like, I want you to not like be like, oh, it's the client. The client was crazy, not me. Like you have to learn something from every situation. Like you have to be like, okay, where did I go wrong there? Could I have been more clear with my consultation? Did I need to reschedule them for another day because this color correction took longer than anticipated? Like ask yourself, even if you think the client is like a bit off, like how could you improve the situation so that you can just better understand people in general? For sure. And don't be the artist that has such an ego that's like,
it's always the client.
Yeah, that's like, I only take like-minded clients and like da-da-da. You don't have to go out and have drinks with every single client. We are in the service industry, and you can be polite and professional and courteous. And that doesn't like, do you know what I mean? I think people kind of get an attitude too, where they're like, it's an invite only kind of thing. You're like, fuck you. Like, that's great. Like, not really, but kind of.
It's kind of legit. Actually, I'm going to say that actually sounds pretty dope. So that does unfortunately bring us to the end of our podcast. So remember guys, if you have any crazy, what the fuck, or just funny stories, email me, Ani at hairextentionsecret.com.
I didn't realize I had so many like random stories. As we're sitting here talking about them, I was like, oh, and then this one. one time.
And then this other time.
But I did legit learn something every time I felt like I had a crazy situation. So that's
For
where
sure.
we'll end it. What can you learn from every crazy situation?
So thank you for being here with us today for episode number 76 of the Big Money Stylist podcast. And we will see you guys next week.